Okay, hello. Hopefully this is working. This is my first time going live on Facebook with my computer. So it was a little tricky getting this set up and it's a completely different view. I'm not sure if anybody has joined, but if you have, please drop a comment in the live so that I know that they're working. And today's live is going to be about Persephone. And she's my main deity. I'm super excited to jump in. So it is going to be a little bit of a longer live today. I have 7 pages of notes. I'm not normally someone that comes with this many notes, but I've been working on this live for a few weeks and just have a lot of great information to share. So I'm going to give it a couple minutes and then we will get started. I'm going to check on my phone and see if it pops up as well. So if you hear anything, just bear with me. Okay, it looks like it is showing up on the group page, and I do see comments on my phone, but not on the computer. So I will check them periodically. I don't want to be checking on my phone too much, but okay, glad that it is working. And I'll check in for the comments just kind of periodically. So let me go ahead and get started. I'm going to be reading notes just, so everybody knows while I do this live, and I've got those up on my screen. So we will get started. Okay. So I'm really excited to share information about the goddess Persephone with everyone today. She is my main deity and one that I've gotten to know super well. So her story is really complicated, and there are various retellings and interpretations of the myth. Many do contradict each other, and it can be difficult to navigate and may also be triggering at times. So I do want to give a trigger warning for this live. There's going to be themes of rape and assault in this live. So I personally had a hard time accepting her when she called to me, and I'll get into more of like my experience with her as we go through this live. I didn't connect with her at first. According to what I had read, I sort of loosely knew her myth before ever starting to work with her. And even though she continued to appear to me, I just kind of wrote her off. And with time and effort, I saw her in a new light, and I was able to connect very deeply in ways I never would have expected. So my goal for today is to help you learn more about her and present various information so you can make your own decision about who she is. And if you feel called, I hope this information helps you develop a relationship with her. And just like with any deity, everyone will develop their own unique experience and their own relationship with that deity. So I'm only sharing from my personal experience, and just take that for what it is. So I do have some participation questions. So I'm going to check the chat for this. And the first question is, what do you know about Persephone? So first question, what do you know about Persephone? And this, there's no right or wrong answers in this. You could know nothing about her. That's completely great. You can know a ton about her, and that is great too. And then the second question is, what do you think about her? Like when you hear her name, what first comes to mind? What are your kind of first thoughts? What do you think about her? And then the third question is, do you work with Persephone, or have you ever? And question number 3 is, do you work with Persephone, or have you ever? So I'll read those again. Question 1 is, what do you know about Persephone? Question 2 is, what do you think about her? What first comes to mind? And question 3 is, do you work with her? So I'm going to check my phone and just kind of read off, some comments that may have come in. Okay, so I've got comments from Jody saying she doesn't know too much. Sarah says she doesn't know much besides very general knowledge, and she doesn't work too much with deities, but loves to learn more. And what first comes to mind is light pink, light yellow, and white. Interesting. And she's never worked with her. Tammy has not much, just some cool stuff from mythology from school, and she's not worked with her. So keep those comments coming, and for those on the replay, I definitely encourage you to, write your thoughts out as well. Okay, so let's talk about the myth. And for any deities, I am a proponent of really learning about the myths if they are available. I like to go back to them for inspiration and learning, and the full classical ones are going to be too long to really read in this live. But I did find a source that I thought paraphrased it pretty well. So I'm going to read that for you. But if you are interested in Persephone, I really encourage you to check out the classical literature and read the full myths in your own. There's lots of different versions, different authors. And I definitely recommend reading them all if you can, and looking at the most ancient ones. Those ones I think are written closer to kind of the time of the myth, and the rest kind of branch from that. So that's always, try to find the farthest back source you can. So a little bit about Persephone is that she's Demeter's daughter by Zeus. So Hades raped her with Zeus's consent. And the snatching away by Hades is told in detail in the Homeric hymn to Demeter. So that's kind of the main myth. The snatching away, I just read that. Hades abducts Persephone when she is picking flowers in a meadow in the plain of Nysaga at the edge of an ocean in the company of the Oceanids. Hades arises through a chasm in the earth and takes her against her will to the underworld. Demeter, heartbroken and upset, asks Hecate and Helios what happened. So Hecate guides her to Helios, who tells Demeter the name of Persephone's abductor. In anger, Demeter shuns the gods and goes to Ulysses, where she lives in the company of mortals. After her failed attempt to make Demophon, I think it's Demophon, 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 immortal, Demeter commands the Eleusinians to build a temple for her and withdraws from her normal functions. So this caused the complete failure of crops that causes famine for mortals and lack of sacrifices in honor of the gods. Zeus freaks out and he sends Hermes down to Hades to persuade him to release Persephone, which he does. But Hades has given his bride some pomegranate seeds to eat, with the consequence that she must return. Demeter and Hades agree that Persephone will spend part of the year with her husband in the underworld and part of the year with her mother in the upper world, which explains the seasons. So the myth associates Persephone both with the earth's fertility and with the funerary sphere. It also explains the seasons of the year. So that's a little bit about the myth. And if you want to drop in the chat just kind of what you think about that myth, that would be awesome. Okay. So her main myths are the ones with Hades, and that was the Homeric hymn of Demeter, just kind of in short. But there are many others and variations of abduction which link a lot to other gods, including Poseidon, Zeus as a serpent, and many others. Other myths also connect her to Adonis, Ascaphilas, Orpheus, and Eurydice, Hecate, Hermes, Ares, Dionysus, Aphrodite, and many others. So she's actually quite intertwined in many of the major myths. And there's a lot of mysterious elements, which I think is super interesting about Persephone. It feels like a lot is missing when you're reading them and when you start to study them. And this isn't a new idea that I've had by any means. Many mystery cults were actually created around this myth, and we'll get into that a little bit more later. So my experience with Persephone is that she came to me when I was really exploring my deity work. I had been working primarily with Rhiannon, and she is a natural choice for me because I work with horses and she has sovereignty, and I just felt a lot of connection to her. But I really was seeking something more. Like I felt like I worked really well with Rhiannon when it came to animals and things that I liked doing, but I didn't feel that she and I connected in like a really deep way past like just more than I was looking for. So I had been exploring various deities, and Persephone would pop up all the time, but I dismissed her. So then I started seeing pomegranate stuff everywhere, which is super cliche and typical, but that is what happened to me. And I had a tarot reading from a reader where she came in loud and clear, and that was the first time where it was I couldn't really ignore it anymore. So, but still, I did dismiss it. I was like, okay, that's like a really big sign, but okay, it's a sign. And that's kind of where I left it. So I still dismissed her at that point. But I kept learning about the myth, and I started reading a lot more, and it really did not speak to me. I felt her story was really about like a weak and suppressed woman, and I wanted something that was more powerful and uplifting. I did purchase a pomegranate bush from my garden. That was before the tarot reading, and where I live, they're very common. Like they're in parks and things too. So it grows really well where I live. I hadn't really bought it for Persephone or anything, but it definitely had a big connection, maybe like 6 to 8 months after I bought it. So one day when I went outside to water it, I like broke down into tears, and it was such a weird thing. Like I didn't expect anything like that. I wasn't really upset or bothered, but I just had this like crazy connection to the plant. And that was actually kind of the shift where I had a major sign to keep learning, but still wasn't fully convinced at that time. So there was one night where I had this extremely vivid dream. And this is unlike any other dream I've ever had. I could feel her there, and it was really hard to describe because it was just nothing like I could experience or I had experienced in the past. Um, so I could really feel her there, and she started talking to me in that dream. And I remember her voice really having this like echoing quality to it. And I wish that I wrote down the exact words. And this is a reminder to write things down because this was years ago and I can't remember the exact things that she said. But I still remember the gist very clearly. And she told me that I was ignoring her call, and that following the false words written by men ignored her true power. She told me to essentially open my eyes to the truth and heal the narrative written by men. That she was a powerful queen and that she had made her choices willingly. And I remember her saying that she could help me on my own path, heal me, and that I had work that I needed to do for her. So that was after that, I woke up and I think I was somewhat in shock. Like I was kind of freaked out. And after that, I really could no longer like ignore the call anymore. So I started collecting different items for an altar, doing a lot deeper learning. And then through time, I did eventually devote to her as her being my main deity. And she has come through other dreams, but nothing like that first one. What she does typically for me is she drops information, especially about like different knowledge, things with her myth, occult studies, and just information that has guided me on my spiritual journey, especially within the mysteries. So that is kind of my my experience with her. It's pretty intense. It's not one that I really share a whole lot, so a little nervous sharing it, but yeah, I'm excited to get it out there at the same time because I have talked with other people that have worked with her and have had similar experiences, and it's very powerful. So some general information about Persephone. She has different names. So Persephone is kind of, the name I think most people know her as. Prosperina is the Roman version of her name. But she's also known as Kore. And Kore is the maiden, and it's like a virgin status of her name, and is the goddess of spring. So Persephone, when her name moved to that, Persephone actually means destruction or bringer of death. So there's a lot to consider and think about with her, and why her name changed, or maybe why it was hidden at one point. So those are things for you to think about and find out on your own, but just drop in a little seed there. So for her parents are Zeus and Demeter. Her husband is Hades. And her children, and there's different takes on this. There's quite a few different takes, but Dionysus, Melano, and Zagreus are considered her children. And her attendants are Hecate and Iacchus. It's Iacchus. That one is tricky to pronounce. She is the goddess of spring and the queen of the underworld. So she rules over the dead, also life, grain, destruction, vegetation, spring, and the seasons. Her home is the underworld. Her symbols are the torch, seeds of grain, pomegranate, spring flowers, and the iron crown. Her sacred plants are asphodel, wheat, daffodils, and lilies. And one of my favorite facts is the fleur-de-lis, which is the stylized version of the lily. And it is also the royal symbol of France. And it is said to be inspired by Persephone. The French have a lot of connection to the mysteries. So that is a little secret that's easily found on the internet for you today. So her sacred animals are the deer, a black ram, and pigs. Her colors are red, black, burgundy, and also pastels if you want to honor her maiden goddess of the spring. So her crystals are garnet, carnelian, ruby, onyx, obsidian, and red or dark colored crystals. And I did actually bring just a quick crystal to show you. So this is a little skull garnet. Oops, let's see if you can see it. And this is one that I have on my altar for her. Okay, so what does she represent as a deity? So the big one is duality. There's so many different aspects of duality within, her myth and who she is. So male and female is one, kind of with her partnership with Hades, good versus evil, heaven versus hell, life versus death, spring versus winter, and there's quite a bit of others, but these are sort of the main ones. She also has growth and renewal because she is the goddess of spring, and she has the power to bring life back to the earth. Her return of the underworld, or return from the underworld each year, signals the end of winter and the start of the growing season. She is also the ruler of the underworld, and as the queen of the underworld, she has dominion over the dead. She plays a role in the cycle of life and death, and oversees the souls of the departed. She was a very merciful queen and kind to visiting heroes, but she was, anyone who dared cross her definitely did not see that. And she was quite ruthless to those who wronged her. And she also represents transformation. So her ability to move between the worlds of the living and the dead symbolizes that transformation and the cyclical nature of life. And it also is a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of life and death. So I want to go back to the myths and talk a little bit about some of the variations with Hades and Persephone's myth. And that's really her main myth. I think the others that she dabbles in, there's some different versions and stories, but there's not such a big variation in them. But while Persephone was taken into the underworld against her will, it is said that over time she came to love Hades in return. As his queen, she ruled the underworld alongside of him as an equal. And I believe this is the only Greek myth that any married couple, especially a king and queen, have any equality. I can't think of any others. I might be wrong, but none that I can think of. So Hades, despite the reputation and the abduction, of course, he did treat Persephone as an equal. There's no evidence of him being a bad husband or wronging her, and that there's really no proof or anything in the myths that he was not loyal to her, which is, I think, one of the, again, only stories in the Greek mythology where that happened. So it does say that he had relations with a couple of nymphs, but it timing-wise seems to have been before their marriage. Persephone, on the other hand, maybe was not so loyal. There's different myths along that. So one thing that's very noteworthy is the meaning of the word rape. So we kind of have an idea of what that means today, but if you look at the Latin meaning from the origins of it, it actually means to snatch, to grab, or to carry off. It doesn't have anything to do with sexual relations in the original word. So think about that as you read the myths and see what that means to you. So the story is commonly rewritten and retold through millennia. One of the most famous ones is Beauty and the Beast. More modern versions are, of course, the Lore Olympus series, which I love. I think they're very fun. And then the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas. The A Court of Mist and Fury is based very heavily on the Hades and Persephone myth. Sometimes it's told as a love story, and other times it's described as the rape of a young girl and a mother's heartbreak over the loss of her only child. So while Persephone was taken into the underworld against her will, it's said that over time she came to love Hades in return. So think about what that means to you, and that's something that you'll have to deeply explore on your own, because there's definitely two camps on that. So why does everyone keep telling this story throughout millennium? There is so much mystery and so much history and so much put into the egregore of this story that it has become very powerful. Some of the things I think that draw people to this story is that in the relationship, once they've become established as king and queen, there really is no power struggle between Hades and Persephone. There's no lack of infidelity, and they work really well together. They are able to rule the underworld together as equals, which again is something you just really do not see in Greek mythology, or really most of the other mythologies. And then the myth is really a love story that is so powerful it can overcome death itself. So not only does it offer an explanation of the seasons, but it creates a new mythology around the relationship between life and death. So Persephone is queen of the dead, but she also ushers in new life on earth come the springtime. One professor is quoted saying, "There is life in death and death in life." The myth also marks a shift in the understanding of death. With such a benevolent and beautiful presence as Persephone ruling the underworld at Hades' side, death suddenly seems less terrifying than it might have been just with Hades in control. So as she comes into the underworld, she kind of softens it throughout the myths. All right, so let me check my phone if there's any comments, and I will jump into the next topic. Yeah, pigs. That's part of the sacrifices is what is thought to be. And Beauty and the Beast. Awesome. I feel like they're not all loading. I only see some of the comments, but I see that the number is 45. So I will just have to check probably the comments after this live. Okay, so the mysteries. As we talked about, it's really not straightforward, like what has gone on with these myths. Many cults and festivals were created out of these myths, and they actually have a huge influence in the modern occult and witchcraft practices today. that's for you to kind of string along and find. But they're very heavily influenced in really most of the modern practices, although I feel that most books and teachings at this point have separated pretty far. But if you go back to kind of the more, I guess, like more original, like even Wicca texts and things, it does have a lot more insight into this. And then if you get into the Western mysteries, it's very clear. So one of the festivals was called Thesmorphoria, and this was a widely spread Greek festival of secret women-only rituals. These rituals were commensurated marriage and fertility, as well as the abduction and return of Persephone. I don't know as much about that one, but that one is more of a festival versus a mystery. And then there is the Eleusinian mystery cult. So no one really knows what happens within these mystery rites. Initiates were sworn to secrecy and death, and that actually has lasted throughout millennia. But it is said that there was psychedelic beverages that were widely used, and going through that experience, learning about these stories, and when people went through this, there was documentation of how they felt after, and they said that they no longer feared death. These mysteries and cults lasted for over a millennium. So they lasted for at least from 1600 BCE to 392 CE. And they were shut down by the Christian Emperor Theodosius in 392 because he saw the ancient rites, of course, going against Christianity. And he destroyed everything, as he always did. And most of the sites were fully destroyed, and some of them were turned into churches. So famous initiates into those mysteries were Pericles, Plato, Socrates, Cicero, Plutarch, and I think many, if not all, of the Roman emperors. So Plato and others have written testimonials that shed light into the mysteries. It is still like completely unknown what happened there, but he definitely talks about them as if they're like fact and kind of the learnings that he had. So those are great places to study as well. One thing that's really interesting is that it wasn't, even though the list I have here is men, it wasn't only men that were allowed in. They definitely allowed women as well as lay people, and they even allowed slaves to come into the mysteries, and supposedly all were treated as equal within those rites. The mystery itself does have a major Egyptian influence, and they were likely influenced by the reincarnation beliefs from Egypt. And then, of course, this is further built into the Western mystery traditions in modern occultism. So let's talk a little bit about that. And one of my favorite ways to connect all of these things is with the High Priestess card. So this is from the Rider-Waite or the Smith-Waite deck. And they were members of the Order of the Golden Dawn. So they created this with that order and the beliefs behind that order. And it is said that the High Priestess card is Persephone. So how do you take a look at that? And everything about this tarot card brings us back to the message of duality. So you see that with the two pillars, the Solomon pillars, and also with the veil. So if you look at the veil, I'm trying to see if you can see this. You can see that there's very clearly pomegranates, and those are laid out in the Kabbalistic tree of life. So that is the mystery right there with Persephone. And if you've studied the Kabbalistic cross, you will definitely know a lot more about that card and the different paths, and it just is very clear that it is Persephone on that card. The card is also ruled by the moon, and it can be seen as well on her crown. So you can see the the crown there with the moon. And I lost my place in my notes. Oh yeah, the crescent wrapped in her robe. So that's the crescent moon at the bottom. So just like the moon, the high priestess has to spend times in complete darkness, but she has the opportunity to shine at its fullest as well. So that's kind of the duality in the seasons represented on that card. So finding balance between the darkness and the light, as shown on the Pillars of Solomon, is part of the human experience and is one of the messages that the high priestess brings us, along with the hope that we have the ability to harness these feelings for the higher good, and with the comfort that this is something we experience as we go through life's journey. Okay, so if you want to work with Persephone, like, what are the main things that she has to teach you? So when you work with her, you will learn to overcome a lot in your life. She is really good at setting boundaries. And if you feel that you're controlled by others and want to please other people, or that you have difficulty saying no, she can definitely help with that. Her methods are difficult. She is not for the faint of heart. She may burn your world down in order for you to see the truth. But in my experience, she always knows what the truth is. And in fact, everything that she does is for your highest good, because you shouldn't live a lie. So if you are building lies around your life, it's not for your highest good. So Persephone also works really well with trauma and loss, grief and pain and anguish, and also with the shadow work, working with the shadow self. She is queen of the underworld for a reason. So working in the shadows is very natural for her. And she expects you to do the hard work. She is not an easy deity to work with. She, from my experience, is pretty demanding, but in a relatively soft way. My personal experience with her is I have work that I have to do for her, and I've definitely been led to the information and knowledge to do that work. But she is very gentle when it comes to healing, and I don't have any issues with her working with other deities or anything like that. I also work with Aphrodite, which they're supposed to not jive, but I do not have a problem with that. I do keep my Aphrodite altar outside and my Persephone altar inside, but they don't seem to have an issue with that. Working with Persephone, you will learn to become comfortable with the uncomfortable. So there is absolutely no running or hiding from your inner demons around her. And she absolutely will shine light on those. And you need to be ready to do probably the most painful work of your life. I don't think you can really work on the work that she has for people that are following her if you do not heal through that. So that is my experience and what I have seen with others who work closely with her. So you'll come out on the other side better and stronger than you've ever been, and I find that it is very worthwhile. So it's not all doom and gloom, as I just talked about. It is a cycle. So she works in the up and down periods in your life, the light and dark, and she is fantastic to work with in the happy parts in your life too. I mean, she's the goddess of spring. Everything is beautiful and flowers and really nice in the good times too. So definitely is not just working in the dark. She helps you take back your power, and she is not as abrasive. Like Lilith is very good for working with power as well, but I find that she is very abrasive. Haven't worked with her much, but just from knowing a little bit about her, and when people kind of talk about working with different, I guess, darker goddesses, that is one of the main differences between the two. So Persephone is a lot less abrasive. She definitely likes social justice. So that I find is something pretty integral to her path, and then also really interwoven in the mysteries and occult teachings as a whole. Persephone was also able to maintain relationships with both her mother and Hades, and was able to shift those relationships over time. So navigating complex relationships, I think, is another very good one for working with Persephone. And she also shows you that you cannot lose yourself because you're always there under the surface, even when you choose to hide. So she's known as a dark goddess for a reason, and she will reveal your truest self, even if the process is painful, in order to help you live an authentic life and to heal. So if you want to work with her, what are some of the best offerings? So one that, of course, will probably come to mind first is pomegranate seeds or pomegranate juice. And this is really important for you to navigate how you feel about the myths and what is true for you, because if you feel that she was tricked or that she did not eat them willingly and that she was bound to the underworld, it's probably not going to be a good offering. If you feel that they are the link that keeps her somewhere she doesn't want to be, it's probably not good to use that as an offering. However, if you don't feel that way, then it's probably a great offering. Some others that you can use to work with her are honey, figs, really any fruit, but figs are a really good one. Red wine, flowers, grains and seed, incense, and also bones. And I really like using coffin nails when I work with her as well, and skulls. So devotional acts that are really good to work with Persephone are honoring the seasons or the wheel of the year. So she's very cyclical, and connecting to the cycles and all of that with nature, I think, is really important. Gardening, especially flower gardens, are really great to work with her. She really likes working with water as well. So again, one of the secrets, I guess, of this card is what is behind the veil. You can easily see it is water, right? So working with water is always a good way to work with Persephone. So cleansing baths or spending time with a body of water is good. Meditation is another great way, and also spending time with your mother and spending time with your spouse. Those can be very good devotional acts. Sex magic is really great to work with Persephone. Drinking red wine, psychedelics I will add as well. Sacred dance, visiting cemeteries. And I saw this one online, which I thought was really great, which is also donating to someone who cannot afford a funeral service. Ancestor worship, sacrifice, fighting for justice, and also honoring the other deities that she works closely with. So, of course, Hades, Demeter, Dionysus, and Hecate. There's others as well, but those are just kind of the big ones coming to mind. So another devotional act, and I feel this is very integral, and I think probably most people that work with Persephone would say this, but shadow work is absolutely a must. I know we have lots of lives on shadow work and lots of information about that, but I'm just going to go through the basics of a 3-step process. So identify, understand, and integrate. Those are the 3 steps. So step 1, identify, is identifying your own shadow behavior. Step 2 is the understand. So really truly understanding the shadow behavior you identified, knowing what it means, like, learn some psychology about it. Why do you do the thing? Just really truly understanding. And then step 3 is integrate. And it's integrating the part of that shadow into your consciousness. So really, fully integrating that. So that's just kind of a generic 3-step process for shadow work. So that is all of the information that I have. I will try to check comments again. And then after that, I have a quick affirmation. But let me try to check the comments one more time. Super annoying Facebook. Um, okay, looks like I, again, only have a few, but I'll try to check the ones that I can see. So Kelly asked a question she said that since she's out of my wheelhouse, is Persephone one to engage with left-handed workings? That's a really good question. And I think it depends. I do not work with her for left-handed workings. I think that like with the mystery knowledge that I have and the like with the occult aspects that I work with, she's definitely more one to try to move society forward. I think I mentioned like social justice and things like that. The fleur de lis is very connected to her, and that has a lot of symbology and meaning in France with democracy and such. So I think that there's uh, a lot that goes against kind of the left-handed workings, but I could see that you could work with her in that way. I think if you were truly wronged and you're truly oppressed by somebody, that she has a very strong wrath. So if you were really truly oppressed, I think that she would support you. But if you are being petty, I would say no. That is my personal take. So again, take it for what you want. Okay. I think mostly just comments here. I'm going to try to open the comments again, and it seems to show me different ones. Okay, just kind of good information. All right, well, if I'm missing any, I will go back. It doesn't let me scroll. I'm having a lot of Facebook issues today. Okay, so I do want to just share this affirmation, and this was written by Simply Witchery. That was the website that I got it off of, and I think if I remember correctly, there's a YouTube video with this chant, or there's maybe a different one that's similar. But this is an affirmation that I feel works really well with her, and so I invite you to close your eyes and to visualize and really think about the feeling that you get with this affirmation. I am the forager of my own path in life. Evil must be destroyed at all costs. I contain multitudes within me. I am beholden to no one. Innocence must be carefully nurtured and guarded. I grow abundantly in all circumstances. I am joyful in quiet, healing rest. My power is only limited by my belief. I recognize the power of choice. I am a champion of justice. Gentleness must be tempered with unshakable boundary. I uncover all lies and deception. I am a fierce protector of my peace. Life and death are held within every soul. I learn the many lessons that the dead have to teach. I am the victor in all conflicts. Truth is consistent action, aligned with thoughtful words. I hold flowers in my heart and iron in my spine. I am as comfortable with the living as I am with the dead. Life is only meaningful because it eventually ends. So that is the affirmation. And I invite you to participate and write how you felt about that in the comments. I'm going to read it one more time, and then I'm going to jump off, and I will respond to comments in the, I'll chat in the comments because Facebook issues today. I hold the power to create or destroy. I am the forger of my own path in life. Evil must be destroyed at all costs. I contain multitudes within me. I am beholden to no one. Innocence must be carefully nurtured and guarded. I grow abundantly in all circumstances. I am joyful in quiet, healing rest. My power is only limited by my belief. I recognize the power of choice. I am a champion of justice. Gentleness must be tempered with unshakable boundary. I uncover all lies and deception. I am a fierce protector of my peace. Life and death are held within every soul. I learn the many lessons that the dead have to teach. I am the victor in all conflicts. Truth is consistent action, aligned with thoughtful words. I hold flowers in my heart and iron in my spine. I am as comfortable with the living as I am with the dead. Life is only meaningful because it eventually ends. And that was written by Simply Witchery. And that's something that I actually have on my altar. I think it's very powerful, so wanted to share. Oh, and I do, before I jump off, I do have a book recommendation. This is the book called Persephone's Pathway, and it is written by Jennifer Heather. I do think it's a good book. It's a great book, but I think for me personally, learning the myths, doing the work, and studying more of like the ancient texts and like learning about the Eleusinian mysteries, like learning about ancient Greece, has been much more powerful. This book is light. I mean, it has a lot of info and has a lot of rituals and things like that in it, but I don't think it equates to doing the study and the work. So that's my take. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining, and I'll be sure to check the comments, and those on the replay, please be sure to comment throughout. Thanks. Bye.